So this video blog is for P5, P6 and P7 of the custodial environment assignment. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is how the custodial environment encourages offenders to build positive relationships within prisons. It is extremely important that positive relationships are built between not only prisoners but also between probation officers, charities and families. The reason that this is so beneficial to prisoners is because if all they do is mix with criminals, they will reoffend once out of prison because it's all they know. So the probation and prison officers ensure that positive relationships are in place by teaching prisoners valuable skills such as basic life skills. So an example of this is toe by toe in prisons, which is when a trusted prisoner enters the buddy system to become a mentor to less able prisoners. This innovative reading program is teaching those who couldn't get a job outside of the prison get basic skills, which will allow them to work or restudy into something they have always dreamed of doing. This method of rehabilitation gives them a reason to never go back into custodial environment, which not only builds positive relationships between inmates, but it also helps tackle their offending behaviour. But they also try to encourage positive relationships that were there before the prisoner committed the crime. For example, if a prisoner has good behaviour record, they'll be allowed more phone calls to home, or more visits for them to come and see them, which allows the prison to keep the connections on the outside world intact instead of having to reconnect with them with those within society. It also gives them a support network once they leave the prison. They'll have many ways for those who follow a religion to connect with those who have the same beliefs, which gives the inmates the ability to make friendship with those who are like-minded. They also get assessed if their behaviour is bad, so that if the prisoner or the probation officers are aware of what the causes are, so they can put in a plan in place before they're released. This cause could need additional support, a change in diet, or psychologists. This is because if the prisoner is released and still has these problems, they will most likely reoffend and end up back in prisons. And if the reason that they're doing it is quite easy to fix, then why shouldn't we not? So the next thing that I'm going to talk about is what programs are available within the custodial environment. So the first program that I'm going to talk about is the sex offender treatment programs that are available to prisoners. There are two main programs which are known as low intensity and high intensity, but they also have two more, which are the healthy sex program and an adapted suite of programs. I'm now going to talk about the two main ones in more detail now. So the low intensity program was created to provide a treatment to all sexual offenders who have been convicted of a non-contact sexual offence. So an example of this would be if a male or female was found in possession of child indecent images. Although only those with a high risk of reconviction will be put in the low intensity program, all of the program's length time will depend on the risk factors associated with the conviction, but you will also be taught in the same class so that the medium and high risk will be taught together to save time and staff teaching. If you're placed in a high intensity program, it will develop the way that you think, as well as your skills as behaviour. It reduces sexual reoffending and gives the prisoners a more fulfilling offence-free life. This is because it encourages the offender to understand what they done to make them recognise that it was wrong. This program also gives the offender a support network once they're released. If you are placed in a high intensity program, you have committed a sexual or sexually motivated offence, as well as have accepted that you done wrong. So then the healthy sex program, which is the two lesser ones, was formerly known as the healthy sexual funding program. This program targets those whose offence relates to a sexual fantasy, giving them the ability to control them and lead a normal life. And lastly, there is the adapted suite of programs. So this gives sexual offenders who are intellectually disabled, which is between a 60 and 80 IQ range, the ability to understand and stop committing these sexual offences. The subheadings within this program are becoming a new me coping, and living as a new me, which helps them understand every aspect of their urges. So the next type of program that I'm going to talk about is controlling anger and learning how to manage it. So this program is related to the anger management that is known as aggression replacement training or ART. This is a group work program to help those who have been convicted of a violent offence or cannot control their temper in prison. It challenges the prisoner to accept the responsibility of their behaviour in prison. So once released, it reduces the number of incidents that occur, as well as teaching the offender what consequences there will be if they continue with the behaviour that they're doing. So the third type of program is called Choices, Actions, Relationships and Emotion, or CARE for short. This course is only available for female offenders whose offending is related to emotional difficulties. So this course aims to help the participants identify and label their emotions rather than acting on them, which will allow them to have a normal life within society. And finally, I'm going to talk about the Belief in Change programme, which is a year-long programme that tackles general offenders who have a high to medium risk of reoffending. Its main aim is to reintegrate the offenders by building skills and support networks for release. The methods that are included in this are community living, group work, and individual coaching and mentoring. It also encourages the participants to think about the personal faith and spirituality that will help them with the process of rehabilitation and release. So finally, I'm going to talk about how offenders are prepared for release and what the support they are given. So there are many support networks to help those who are being released. The support could be for a drug and alcohol addiction, which would stop them from living a crime-free life, financial aid, and temporary accommodation if they have no support from the outside from relatives or friends. This could be due to their chaotic lifestyle that would be corrected within the custodial environment. The support networks are so important after the offender is released, as it makes a difference between whether they go back to bad habits and reoffend or make themselves into what they really want to be, which is the important part. They are also given additional help with how to create a good and working crime-free life, so that they are given support in finding somewhere to live, getting a job, or going into apprenticeship, education as a whole, as well as a new social network, which I think is quite important. But they also continue the courses that target any addiction as well as mental health issues and anger, so that they continue to work on their weaknesses instead of just letting them ride.